Hi everyone, my name is Giovanna Fraissa and today we're gonna do the exercises about file I/O. So basically, the order of these exercises are correct according to the ebook that you have in your hand, okay? But the video solution has different numbers for the problems, but don't worry, they are in the correct order. And if you want to search about the correct order, you can also take a look at the timestamp, okay?
Now we're going to change the idea of the projects. These two questions here are more to get familiar with grabbing for arguments from the command line, okay? But now we're going to work with another file. So for example, he wants us to create a file called days.txt, okay? So we're going to create a file with days of the week and one at each line, and then we're going to open the file and read its content, okay? So here we're going to do two things. The first thing that we're going to do, we're going to create a file called days.txt, okay? So let's create this file in here, so new file, and I'm going to paste here the days of the week. So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm going to save this as days.txt, that is the type text, and I'm going to save in our file, our folder, okay? That is the advanced folder. So here we have our file days, okay? Now what we're going to do, now that we create the days.txt, we're going to, We're going to open the file and read its content. So how are we going to do this? We have in here in Python, we have this file read method. So the read method returns the specified number of bytes from the file and blah blah blah. So let's check here first. For example, we want to open this demo file.txt, and we have to pass here R because we want to read, okay? So we call read the name of the file and we use this R here, and when we print the fread we can see the content of this demo file, okay? So we can read what appears in our text file, and that's what we're going to do. So we already create our days.txt, okay? And now we're going to open up here by coding. So days.file, I'm going to create a variable here, and in this variable I'm going to do the same as he did in here, okay? So I'm going to use this open. Inside I'm going to put the name of the file, and then I have to put this R here that explains that we are reading the file, okay? So I'm going to use open days.txt. It has to be the same way as you create your file here, and remember we have to use an R because we are reading the file. Then how are we going to read? We're going to use the print, okay, and we're going to put inside. So remember here, to print the file, it got the name of the file here, the F, and you have to use the dot read, okay? So here we're going to put days file.read, and this way we're going to read the file. So let's check. So Python problem12.py, and here we're reading what? We're reading the file the way that the things that are in the file. So if we check here, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and here we also have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we are reading our file without opening the file. We can call this by in here. And one thing that is important is always to close the file that we open, okay? So the thing that we did here is not enough. We have to close our file because since we open here, it's always a good method to close the file, okay? Like we can see in here. So basically what is going to happen? It's not going to change us by looking. The project will be the same, the end will be the same, okay? But the thing is that we're closing this file, so we are not able to do changes in this. It's a good habit to always close the files that you open, okay? So how are we going to close the file? We're going to do the same. So we did the dot read, here we're going to use the dot close. So after opening and reading the file, we're going to close. So this file dot close. Okay, so now let's run again and let's check how it goes. So here again we're checking. So this is very interesting. When I first learned this, I get very surprised that we can do a lot of things in programming, and one of these things is what we can open files that it's from other types of, for example, txt, there is a text, and we can read this just using the code, right? So we have here the text file, and we have here in the terminal the same thing that we have in the text file. Perfect. Now let's go to the next one. So create a file called days.txt with days of the week on one of each line. So we already did this in here. Okay. And now open the file and read the first line. So how are we going to do this? We're going to use a function. We're going to do the same idea as we did in problem 12. So we have to open the file and then we have to close, okay? But instead of using read, because the read here give us all the lines in our text file, we're going to read just the first line. And how are we going to do this? We're going to use a function called readLine method, okay? So let's open up here to see what happens. So the read line, it's going to read just the first line or the line that you want to read. So for example, here, if we use the dot read, we would get the whole text that is hello, welcome to demo file.txt. This file is for testing purpose, good luck. But when we use the dot read line, we just get this first line, hello, welcome to demo file.txt. Okay, as we can see here. Here we have 3 lines, and in here we just have 1 because we are using this read line. So that's what we're going to do. So first, let's create a variable to open our days.txt. So open days.txt, and remember we have to use the R here because we are reading the file. Then we can use the print days file, and instead of dot read, we're going to use the dot read line. Okay, and then we have to close days file dot close. Okay, so now let's check. Before we were getting all the text, and now let's see what we get in this new problem. So problem 13.py, we're grabbing just the first line here, Monday. Okay, so we're doing basically the same thing as we are seeing here in the Double 3 schools. Okay, now let's go to the next problem. So create a file called numbers.txt and write numbers 1 to 100 at each line. So this is one more powerful tool that we have in programming. Think about the time that we would expend to write 1 to 100 at each line. We would have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. But we don't need to do this. We can do what? We can do a for I in range, right? And print this 1 to 100 at each line just using programming, instead of writing down each number that we want, okay? So let's do this. So in here, so remember, we have the open, let me open up here. So we have the open method, right? Python. So remember, I was talking about to use the R, right? Because the R here is to read, and we normally use to read. But we have also other modes of working with the file. We can read, we can append, we can write, we can create, and then you can, I highly recommend you to stop and read this better. So here we can use the W, because the W is the write mode. So opens a file for writing, creates the file if it does not exist. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a file, numbers.txt, and we're going to write numbers from 1 to 100 at each line. I'm going to show you here that it's not magic, okay? If you take a look here, I have no file for number.txt. We just have days.txt and the others are for the problems that we're doing, okay? So you're going to see that we can create files just using programming. So here we're going to do what? We're going to do basically what we did in here, but instead of opening to read, we're going to open to write. So we're going to use the W here, okay? So we're going to do num files, that is the name, it's the name of our variable. And here we're going to open what? So we're going to create a file called numbers.txt. And here we're going to use the W mode, that is the write mode, okay? And what we're going to do in this write mode, we're going to write numbers from 1 to 100 at each line. And how can we do this? We can use the for I in range, okay? We already saw, we already saw this in here. So, for example, if we want to do, so since we want to do an iteration from 1 to 100, we can use this notation here, remember. Since the first by default is 0, okay, they start by default is 0, but we don't want to start our numbers by 0, we want to start our numbers at 1. That's why we're going to use the start 1 and the stop will be 101, because we want to print numbers 1 and 100, and remember 100, the stop here is not included. So when we run, if we want to do this, what is going to appear in our terminal? For I in range, it should appear, sorry. So let's run here again, oops. So let's run here again. And okay, for some reason, oops, I know what's the problem. I forgot to use range, right? So if we want to do an iteration for n in range, we're going to start at 1 and we're going to finish at 101. We have to use the range function, that's why it wasn't printing. So when we run here, when we use this range function, we're going to receive numbers from 1 up to 100, right? So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 100, okay? So instead of us writing down this, we're going to set the code to write this for us in the number.txt. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do for I in range, okay? So 1 up to 101. And what we're going to do in here, so instead of printing in the terminal, so for example, if we do this in here, what we would receive, let me put here, what we would receive, we would print the numbers in the terminal, but we don't want to print the numbers in the terminal. We want to print the numbers where? In the numbers.txt write, okay? So to do this, we have also a .write function. So .write Python. It's the same thing as .read or it's the same thing as .read and .readline that we were doing, but in this case we have the .write. And we can write one more thing in the context, in the file. So we can see in here, we're opening, we want to write something here. And we can see that now we have this, now the file has more content, right? So we're going to use this .write. So what are we going to do? The .write, we're going to do the same thing as we use the days file .readline. So we're going to call the num files, okay, .write, and what are we going to write inside? We're going to use that notation, okay, of writing things inside, and the value will be what? Will be I. Let's try this way. So let's try this way, and after all, remember we have to close the file, okay? So let's check how it goes. So Python problem 14.py. When we create here, if you check, now we have a numbers.txt. So when we open up here, we have numbers from 1 up to 100. Okay, so the code created for us a new file called numbers.txt, and also inserting this file numbers from 1 to 100. For me, when I first saw this, I was very happy because this for me is incredible. I don't know if you're feeling how incredible this is, but I think this is incredible. Anyway, let's continue. So now open the file numbers.txt and read the first line. Use the open as syntax. So we're going to do basically the same as we did in here. To read the first line, we're going to use this read line here, okay? And we're going to open the file. So how do we open the file? Remember, we're going to store the file. We're going to create a variable to store this open with the R here, R mode, that is the read. Then we're going to print the days file.read line, and then we're going to close. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So problem 15, we're going to do num files is equals to open. Remember, what's the name of the file? It's numbers.txt, so numbers.txt. And what's the mode that we're going to read? That's why we're going to use R. And we want to see the first line, so we're going to use num files.readLine. Okay, and then we're going to close the file. Close. Okay, so this we already did before. So problem 15, and here we are writing the first line, that is number 1. Okay, perfect. So by now we already know how to manipulate text files. This next problem here, we're going to learn how to manipulate CSV files, that are the Excel and Google, I don't know how they say, spreadsheet, I think. So in here, we're going to do the following. Let me close here, and let me close here. So create a spreadsheet file and put 10 of your favorite desserts in the first column. Download file with .csv extension, open CSV file, print the elements of the file. So let's create the CSV file, okay? So let's create our 10 favorite desserts in our Google spreadsheet, okay? So here I'm going to put ice cream, chocolate, I don't know, tiramisu. I don't know if you know these names, if you use these names in there. Cheese, cake, cookie. I'm going to put more things, so cookie again, chocolate. I'm not a person with too many so creative, so I don't know. This is being more difficult for me. So ice cream again, cheesecake again, and ice cream. Yes, I'm not so creative, so sorry. In here I'm going to do a download in CSV. Okay, this is in Portuguese, but you can do this in your Google. Okay. And in here, we're going to upload this file. So here you come to File, Upload Local Files, and we're going to select Files, okay? So here we're going to My Download, and we're going to click on Desserts and Open. Now that we open, is in here, so if we click here, it's opened, okay? I'm just going to change the name. So here I'm going to use rename just to desserts.csv, okay? So here we have our CSV. So remember, we have this before a spreadsheet, and now it became a CSV file here in the CS50 ID, okay? So now let's do our project. So create a spreadsheet file and put 10 of your favorite desserts in the first column. So we already did this. Download the file with .csv extension. We already did this in here. Open the CSV file and print the elements of the file. So basically CSV has the same idea as we were doing before. Okay, so in here we're not going to, instead of opening a text file, we're going to open a CSV. And we have here, this is a really good web page to check more about CSV file reading and writing, okay? But basically, if you want to open up a CSV reader, if you want to read a CSV, you're going to do this. You have to import the CSV library, and we're going to use, instead of open, you're going to use with open, and we have to use this as file, and then we're going to write things inside, okay? So it's basically the same idea. So let's start writing. Don't be afraid. This is all new for you, but this is going to be very important to doing the exercises in the future. Okay, so basically here you're going to first remember we have to import the CSV, as we saw here. We have to import this library here, and we're going to use this with open, the name of the CSV, new line here, and actually we don't need this new line, and this as CSV file. Okay, so we're going to use in here. So with open, what is the number of the file? It's desserts.csv, right? So we're going to put here desserts.csv, and here we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to use an R for reader, for read, okay? So with open as file, so remember the same way as we did previously, and in here we're going to use this reader thing in here. Can you see? Where is it? This csv.reader. We're going to do the same. So here we're going to create a variable called reader, and we're going to do csv.reader, that is the name of the file. And what is the name of the file? It's file, right? Because we are saying with open blah 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 as file. So we are saying that all of this here will be called as file, okay? So this file will be the name that you're going to put here to do this file, this reader here. It's the same idea as we were done before, but before we were using the name of the open dot reader. Let me open up here. We were using the name of the open dot read to read the file because it was a text. Now that we're using CSV, we have to use this with open, and here we are setting the name of the variable that we are saving, we're storing this desserts.csv, and here we're going to use .reader file. Okay, but just this is not enough. We need to use the for row in reader. So we're going to do the same idea here. So we're going to do for row in reader. This is a spam reader because he gave this name spam reader. And why row? So for row in the name as we're doing, so here let me put for row in reader, we're saying what? We're going to do an iteration in each row of this file here. So we're going to print each row of this file desserts.csv, okay? And then we're going to print the row. Okay, and why are we using here 0? Because we want to print the elements of the file, and all the elements of the file are in the first column. So here when we use this 0, we are saying what? We're saying that we want to print the elements in the row that are in the column 0. Why 0? Remember, by convention we always start counting things in programming by 0, not 1. So the first column is the column 0. That's why here we're using row. So we're going to print each row, and in which row we're going to print the column 0. That is the first column. Okay? So let's clear and see how it goes. So Python problem 16.py, and here, if you take a look, we have the same items. So ice cream, chocolate, tiramisu, and so on and so forth until ice cream. Okay, so now we know how to open and read a CSV file. It's basically the same idea as to read a text file, but with some particular notations. Okay, now we're going to work again. So create a spreadsheet file and put 10 of your favorite desserts in the first column with some repetitive ones. Download the file with .csv extension. So we already did this, right? We already create our desserts.csv. We already downloaded in here, and we already have in here, okay? And we have some repetitive ones because I'm not so creative, as you already saw. So now we're going to open the CSV file the same way as we did in here, okay? But one more task. Now we're going to count the number of desserts, put the results in a dictionary and print it. So I know it seems a little bit confusing, but this is basically what we already know. We are kind of mixing the things that we're learning in this video, okay? So we're mixing opening the CSV file and mixing the dictionary thing that we already know. So let's start from scratch, okay? So let's start opening the CSV file. So we're going to do basically what we did in here. So remember, we have to import the CSV library. And how are we going to do? We have to use this with open, okay? The name of the file, read, and set this file here in a variable that is going to be called file. We're going to create a variable to store the reading of this file, and we're going to do this for row in reader to check each row of the file. So here we have with open, so the name of the file, that is dessert.csv, and they are because we are reading the file as file, okay? Now we're going to create a variable reader where we're going to read the CSV file. So csv.reader file, okay, we already know this. And we're going to do the iteration for row in reader. So here we're doing iteration for each row in this dessert.csv. This is basically the idea. Now, what we have to do, we're going to count the number of desserts, and then we're going to put in a dictionary and print it. So first we're going to count the number of desserts, okay? So how are we going to do this? First, we're going to create a variable, okay? So we're going to create a variable called current dessert. And what is going to be this variable? We're going to store the dessert of the first line, because the first iteration here, we're going to check. So the first iteration, we are in the first row, and remember why we use here square bracket 0, because we're grabbing the first column, okay? And the first column is identified by 0. So we're going to grab the current dessert, and we're going to check if this current dessert already exists in the dictionary. If it is, we're going to add 1 to the count variable, and if it's not, we're going to create a new dessert in there. So remember, since we're going to use dictionary, we have to create a dictionary. So we're going to call here desserts count equals to dict. So basically, here we are initializing a dictionary, an empty dictionary. And what we're going to do, in each iteration, we're going to, in this dictionary, what we're going to do, the dictionary, the key will be the name of the desserts. So for example, ice cream, chocolate, tiramisu, and cheesecake. And the values will be how many times this desserts appears. Okay, so the key will be the name of the dessert, and the value will be the count. It will be the number of repetitive times that it appears. For example, ice cream will be 1 key, and the value of ice cream will be 3 because it appears 3 times in here. Chocolate will be a key, and it will have as value 2 because it appears 2 times. Tiramisu will be a key, but it will have value just 1 because it appears just 1 time. Cheesecake will be 1 key, and the value will be 2 because it appears 2 times. And cookies will be the other key, and it will have as value 2 because it appears 2 times. So this is basically the idea, okay? So here we create our empty dictionary, and now we're going to do what? We're going to check if the dessert is in the dictionary. If it is, we're going to increment the value of how many desserts it appears. If not, we're going to create a new key value, okay, as we did previously on creating key values. So if current dessert in desserts count, so what are we doing here? We're checking if the current dessert exists in desserts count. So if current dessert exists in desserts count, this is the same thing as we did with Rodrigo in the lists, okay? So if Rodrigo is in the names of lists, so if the current dessert is in the desserts count dictionary, we're going to, so desserts count dictionary with the key current dessert will be incremented by 1 the value, and else we're going to create a new key value for this dictionary, current dessert. I know it seems confusing, but we're going to understand what is happening, and we're going to create a new variable here. And after all, we want to print desserts count. Okay, so now let's check. So I'm going to put here the breakpoint, and we're going to do debug 50 problem 17.py. So let's see what happened in here. So we have here a no such file desserts. So we already have a problem. It's not desserts, it's not dessert, it's desserts, right? So here the name of the file has to be the same name as the existing file. That's why it breaks our code. But now let's run this again. So here we have our file with what? The file has the information from the desserts.csv, okay? And so let's go. We're going to do the iteration. So the first row will be the first row of our desserts. And what is the first row of our desserts? It's ice cream, okay? So remember, the first row is ice cream. So here we have ice cream, and what is going to happen? The current dessert will be set as what? The current dessert will be set as the value of the column 1 in the first line. So since we have all in one column, we're going to grab the information of ice cream. That's why current dessert is ice cream. Now we're going to check if current dessert exists in the dictionary desserts count. So by now the dictionary desserts count is empty. So ice cream already exists in this dictionary. No, that's why this if condition is not satisfied, and we go to the else. Now in this else, what we're going to do? We're going to create a new key. That key is going to be ice cream, and we're going to set as value to this key the value of 1, okay? Because we're saying that it's the first time that is appearing ice cream in our CSV file. So now if you check, the dictionary now has the key ice cream with value 1. Now we're going to do the iteration again. So the new row has which value? Chocolate, okay? Has value chocolate. So here we're going to check what is going to be the current dessert. It's going to be chocolate, okay? So here we're going to check if the current dessert, that is chocolate, is in the desserts count. So by now the desserts count has only ice cream key, and we're checking if chocolate exists. So chocolate is not a key by now. So this if condition is not satisfied, and we go to the else. So now we're going to create a new key called chocolate, and we're going to set as value 1, okay? So now we see here that we have two pair values in our dictionary. Now we go to the next iteration, and the third row, it's what? It's tiramisu. So here we have tiramisu as the row, and the current dessert is the word tiramisu. Now we're going to check. So the current dessert, that is tiramisu, already exists in the dictionary. So the dictionary by now has ice cream and chocolate. So tiramisu is not a key for this dictionary dessert. So this if condition is not satisfied, and we go to the else. And now what we're saying in this line, we are creating a new key called tiramisu, and we're going to set as variable the value 1, okay? So when we click in here, we're going to see that now we have another key value in our dictionary, okay? Next iteration, we're going to the row cheesecake, and the current dessert will be cheesecake. So cheesecake already exists in our dictionary. So our dictionary by now has ice cream, chocolate, and tiramisu keys. So cheesecake is not a key by now in our dictionary. So we're going to create a new key called tiramisu with the value 1. Okay, so we have in here cheesecake, and we're going to see here that has value 1. Now we're going to the next iteration. Now the row has cookie, and the current dessert is cookie. So cookie is a dessert that already exists in the desserts dictionary. No, because by now we just have ice cream, chocolate, tiramisu, and cheesecake. So now we're going to, so this if condition is not satisfied, so we go to the else, where we're going to create a new key called cookie, and we're going to set this cookie key, this cookie key with value 1. Okay, so we have here now, let me show you, now we have a cookie key with value 1. Next row, we're going to do an iteration, so the row now is cookie again, it's the second cookie that appears in here, and the current dessert is cookie. So now we're going to check if cookie is in this dictionary. So already exists cookie in this dictionary. Yes, we have here that we have a key called cookie. So we're going to enter in this if condition, and what we're going to do, we're gonna go to the key with name cookie, and we're gonna add 1 unit to the value. So by now, if you check here, cookie has value 1, but after this if condition, where is it? Desserts, I think I miswrote here. Oops. So let me do this again. Control C. So I miswrote here. So see, sometimes we do these mistakes, and I'm going to show you what's happening. So let me come back to where we were. Okay, so we were in here. So remember, cookie already exists in our dictionary, okay? So what are we going to do? We're gonna add 1 unit to this cookie key that we have in the dictionary, and so it's 1 when we click in here. Now our cookie has value 2, okay? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep looping. So next iteration, the row is chocolate, so the dessert is chocolate, and we're going to check. So if chocolate is in the dictionary. So the dictionary already has a key called chocolate, so we're going to enter in this condition, and we're going to add 1 to this key chocolate. So when we check here, now chocolate has value 2. And we're going to do this so on and so forth, okay? So now the current dessert is ice cream, so ice cream is in the dictionary. Yes, there is a key called ice cream. So we're going to increment 1 to this dessert dictionary. So if we check here, now ice cream has value 2, and we're going to keep doing this until we finish, okay? And then we have here our new dictionary where ice cream appears 3 times, chocolate appears 2 times, tiramisu appears 1, cheesecake 2, and cookies 2. And if we take a look on our desserts.csv, it really happens, right? So our problem is working. Now let's go to the next problem. That is what? Create a spreadsheet file and put 10 of your favorite desserts in the first column with some repetitive ones. In the first row of the column, put the title of the column as dessert. So in the first row of the column, put the title of the column as dessert. So now we're going to change. we're going to create a new file. So let me remove this. So let me do, actually I'm not going to delete. Now we're going to put in the first line what? So in the first line of our column, we're going to have a title. So here it's going to be dessert. Okay, this is what he's saying. So put a title of the column as dessert. So here the title of our column is dessert. So let me save here as .csv. Okay, and we're going to open up here. So file, upload local files. So why are we changing? Because now we have, oops, it's not folder, it's select file. So desserts here. And okay, so now we have our new desserts. I'm going to call this as rename desserts. I'm going to call desserts 2. I'm going to call this desserts 2, okay, because it's our second desserts file, where now we have the dessert as the first line of the column. It's the title of the column, okay? So in the first row of the column, put the title of the column as dessert, as we have in here, and download the file with this .csv extension that we already did. Open CSV file, print each dessert using the name of the column. So now we're going to do basically what we did on problem 16, but we're going to use a different notation that is called what? It's called dict reader, okay? Then I highly recommend you to read this part of the dict reader, okay? But basically, we're going to do the same thing as we were doing with reader, but instead of using reader here, we're going to use the dict reader, okay? So in here, what we're going to do, remember we have to import CSV because we want to open the file. So with open, what is the name of the file? It's desserts2. So why is desserts2? Is this new file that we create. It has to be the same name of the file. And R because we are opening as file. And here we're going to do reader equals to CSV dot. Before we were using .reader, but now we're going to use this dict reader. Okay. And we're going to use the file. And why are we using this dict reader? Because we can create an object that operates like a regular reader, blah blah blah. But basically, this dict reader, we can print the row. We can print actually the column in an easier way as if we were printing with the reader only. So we're going to do the for row in reader like we were doing before. And since we want to print each dessert using the name of the column, we're just going to use print row, and instead of 0, we're going to put here dessert, okay, because it's the title of our column. So in here, we were using 0, but now that we create a title, we can use the name of the title. This way that we're doing the project makes our life easier, okay? So Python project problem 18.py, and here we are reading each row using the name of the title, okay? So I know it seems it's a little bit overwhelming because it's a lot of new information, but it's really nice for you to start learning how to do things like we did in this video. So take a look on this video a lot of times, try to be very comfortable with this new information, and you're going to see that your life will be much more easier, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this content and see you in the next video. Bye bye.